where we ended, we're at the flood. God's called Noah to build the ark, and he showed him how well he's about to give him the size of the ark he needs to make. But we ended in on verse 14 of chapter 6. He said, "So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out." And something that's really cool is that word pitch. We talked about it a little bit as we were ending the other night. Is another. It can also be translated in the Hebrew as atonement or atone, which we know that Christ's blood atoned for us. We have a payment. That's what the atonement means. A payment. I think they use that kind of language with like banks, right? Like you atoned your debt. Yeah. So
your debt has been
atoned for.
Yeah.
And see, our debt's been atoned for. Our sin debt that we have just.
Yes, execute that deed every day.
Yes. And Jesus atoned that with His blood. Now, of course, Moses didn't know anything about that, but he was just simply trusting what God said. God said, "I'm going to wipe the face of the earth off. I'm going to destroy the earth and the people on it. And here's what I want you to do." Because he found Noah. He said Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. So at that time, Noah had faith in God, who he was, and he strived to walk right. And then it said he was blameless among the people of his time. So at that time, he was a really, really good man, and it obviously stemmed from his faith that caused him to be that. But back to that word pitch. So they on the ark, it was covered in pitch. That's what kept the water out. They take that tar type stuff, right? It's kind of what it is, and you melt it.
Kind of like you do in a basement to keep the holes. Where you form the concrete.
Yeah, so he would cover that whole thing to keep out that water. And see, the water is judgment of God. It's the judgment of God coming on earth. And see, what that pitch does is cover Noah and his family within that, and it keeps them covered. Just like, I wish I had some references written down, how we're covered in Christ, right? We're in Him, just like Moses was in the ark,
His blood's all over.
Yeah, we're atoned. We're like that pitch. It's over us. We're sealed by the Spirit inside of Christ.
There's no one.
Oh, sorry. I always say that. Yeah. Yeah. I always say Moses. I will do that all day. But I hope y'all know what I mean. Y'all be telling her you're telling the stories of Moses and the ark and Noah and the whale.
I'm going up to Indiana this week. I'll be telling the grandkids, "Tell about Moses and the ark."
Yeah. I say, "Where are you going to church at, man?" I say, "Man, you need to move. Go somewhere else." Well, that's the only thing I mess up. That's pretty good. Yeah. But that's just neat, and remember, the Old Testament is what you call shadow of what pointing towards Christ. So these are all stories that help us wrap our mind around what the cross, meant and why we needed it and things like that. So Noah was in the ark, and completely the pitch was around the ark, and it just like Christ's blood is totally around us. We're totally covered and washed clean. Yeah.
I just wondered how much a teleprompter is going to cost.
A what?
A teleprompter.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, Moses was in the ark. He was still in the loins of Noah.
Hey, see, that's what I was talking about. See?
We can sit in the lake. Nobody even knows what's up there. You can use it up there.
Yeah, right. But I just thought that was really neat. That even that word in the Hebrew would mean atone. And we are so sealed by what Christ did. And we're lucky to live in the time that we do, because we have this full word that we can have assurance of, and I can know that I'm saved. I can know that I have peace with God. It's not a thing I have to earn.
Well, don't you suppose that Noah felt that same way? That
He probably did.
when the door come up and he was
Of
inside
course.
there, he probably felt
Absolutely.
that same way.
He knew that he had peace with the
No matter
Lord.
how the water got, he knew he was going to be all right.
Yes. Now, he probably got terrified. I mean, it was probably terrifying. Just like us. We're dying is probably going to be, it's a little scary. But
life itself is terrifying.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But we have the peace that passes understanding. In our deepest depths, which is, it's the Spirit in us, we have the peace there. We act sometimes like non-believers, and that we get worried, and that we do these things. We act sometimes like that, but at our core, we got the Spirit, and we're believers.
We come right down to it, and the sky is falling.
Yeah.
Who are we going to count? Who are we going to call out to?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
It ain't going to be government. It's going to be, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and we ain't relying on ourselves either, And that's the thing that Scripture makes so clear. Noah couldn't have saved himself. He wouldn't have known that flood was coming if God wouldn't have came to him and told him this is coming. So,
You actually, is that actually really what happened? I mean, you think
Yeah.
that he actually did tell him it was going to be a great flood?
Oh, absolutely.
Did he just tell him to make the ark, and he didn't really tell him?
Well, back here he says in verse 5, it says, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil at all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor or grace in the eyes of the Lord." This is the account of Noah. So let me skip. 13. "So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people." So he straight tells him, "For the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both of them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms." Yeah. He just straight tells them, this is what's going to happen. So Noah's like, woo-wee, okay. You could imagine.
I wonder if Noah told other people around there.
Well,
This is going to happen. Huh?
yeah.
He was talking the whole country. It took him 100 years to build it.
Yeah, but I wonder if he's telling everybody that, this is the reason we're doing this. I know
Sure.
y'all get that.
Well, Second Peter tells us that he calls Noah a preacher of righteousness. So he preaching, of course, making, with his vocal. So
Get everybody to change their ways.
I'm sure, he knew from the Word of God that it was just going to be him and his family in there, because God tells him that. But I'm sure he told everybody.
Maybe on the same lines of like Sodom and Gomorrah,
Yeah.
that if you could find, was it one or something?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
2 or 5 or whatever, that they would spare it, but they couldn't. So maybe that's what he was doing too. He was trying to.
Yeah, and his sons, was believers too, I'm sure, or they would just kind of laugh at him. Kind of like Lot at Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot was there, and he tried to tell I think it was his nephews, or he tried to tell his daughter's husbands, and they didn't care,
Well, this is kind of awful.
Kind of like with us when I tell somebody,
I was just starting to say that. Like right
Christ
now,
is coming back.
Preachers are trying to preach right now to
Yeah.
congregations that God is real, and that this is the way you have to do it.
Yeah.
And get salvation to be saved. That the end is going to come
Right.
one of these days, but people still
Yeah.
don't want to do it.
Well, you get back to it says that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil at all the time. So you need the Spirit to be awoken from it, because the man's heart's fallen. So you got to have the Spirit, but we share and we tell. We can't hold that back. It's within us, It's like, it kills me not to tell. If someone asked or wanted to know, it would kill me not to tell. You'd have to put a muzzle on me to not tell somebody that. Hey, you don't gotta, live like this, there's hope, there's peace, Now, I could go and tell more people, I'm sure, but when the opportunity arises, and definitely if anyone would ever ask or want to know, most people don't really want to know, but,
It says as many as ask.
yeah. Say what?
It says as many as ask.
Yeah. So it's like with us, we can't help but share. When people want to know the truth, and when our view of life contradicts with someone else's, and they're not understanding why is nothing working? Why do I feel this way? Or why, why are we alive? Or everyone has those questions, So it's like with us, we can't help but share. And the more you get in the Word, the more of the foundation you're standing on, and the more easier it is to share, and the better you can minister to people, because you just have more of the answers, because God's the truth, So he goes on. God tells them that this is how you're to build it in verse 15. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof and opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I'm going to bring flood waters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has the breath of life in it, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark. So that word covenant, I think that might be the first time you see that word in here. That's just an agreement. That's just an agreement is what that word can also be translated. A deal. Here's the deal. And he said, I will establish my covenant with you. And this is what God says. You will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of the living creatures. So he's telling him, this is what you're going to do. He's not giving him an option. He's not saying, if you will. He says, this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to work through you, basically. And you see that. You see God's power working through, because he doesn't say, if. It's, here's what you're going to do. So you got to know, when God says you're going to do it, Noah's going to do it. And God... Yeah, the will to do it too. Yeah, he put in them the will to do that. So I thought that was pretty cool. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures. So he's saying, this is what you're going to do. And then he's telling him, you are going to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. Now, if he told me that, and he said, Ryan, I want you to build this ark, and I want you to bring all 2 living creatures in, I'd be like, how on earth am I going to do that? But if he says, I'm making an agreement with you, you're going to do this. And he doesn't give me I want you to figure it out, but here's the covenant, here's the agreement I'm making with you. You're going to build this ark, you're going to get in it, and you're going to bring all these creatures with you. He doesn't say, figure out how to build it. He says, this is what you're doing. And the point is, like, what I think is so beautiful is it's God doing that in him. It's not Moses or Noah figuring it out. It's not Noah, okay, I got to do this. No, because Noah doesn't seek out the animals. That's the cool part. Noah, because if Noah thought I got to figure this out, Noah would be running around like crazy. How am I going to get these animals? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Instead, he says, no, God says I'm going to do it, and it's going to happen. So with us, God says that He preordains good works in our lives. He says that we're going to fulfill them, and we're just to trust that's going to happen in our lives. So God says, you're going to get these animals on here, and He doesn't go, how am I going to get these animals here? He just simply trusts God, and God brings those animals thing. So same with us. God's going to use us as vessels for Him, and we just simply say, okay, Father, I trust you for that. Now, at the same time, that doesn't mean we don't pray, God, how do I react to this situation? Or how can I bless this person? Or what can I give to this person to help them, or anything like that? But it's just at the core of it, we can say, God's going to do it. God's going to do it through me, which is such a cool gift. It's just such a cool thing that God would use you to be a blessing to others and to love others and to be His body right on earth.
And it's a blessing that He calls us, because Jesus said nobody can come unless the Spirit moves them in.
Yep.
Brings you in.
No, yeah. We were dead in trespasses and sins, it says, yeah.
God's got a plan, and He moves us to where we will call out to Him.
Yep, that's it. And that's that's the sovereignty of God. That's, that's the all control. You give Him everything.
Yeah, and I see Jim saying a lot of times, that's how you can trust Him with your children.
Yeah.
You can trust Him with your family.
Yep.
Because He has a plan, and He's able to bring them
Yep.
to the kingdom where we can't.
Yeah, if you try to hold on to things and you try to control everything, well, that's the lack of faith, that will hurt you.
But you think you should control them.
Yeah, there's
Especially when you're a mother.
oh yeah. You gotta so much pray about the fine line, I don't know where that line is, but you pray and you seek God's wisdom in every situation of where do I let go? Like, where do I step and where do I let go? Sometimes the right thing to do is to let go, but sometimes the right thing to do is hold on. But you pray, that's where your your prayer.
Continue in your ministry, you are seeing it. You put your heart to go to school, put your heart to stop political science, put your heart to take this new job.
Yeah.
God did all of that.
Right. Yeah.
And that's how it works in your ministry.
Yep.
Every day you put your heart to do what you're supposed to.
Yep. And you just say, yep. And it takes a big faith to trust that God can do that.
When are you gonna start the new job?
Not next week, but the week after, right?
The 26th.
Yeah, the 26th, yeah. Yeah. So not this week coming up, but the next. But you see, He says, this is what you're going to do, all right? And what does God say for us? Well, He says, you're going to enter heaven, you're going to be with me, and not only that, on earth, you're going to do good things for me in my name. And, I just love that that's a truth in our faith, that, it's not about works. It's not about what can you do or how good of a person you can be. It's God working in you to do it.
Yes.
Not you doing it for Him, or, in a way you are, but it's not you mustering it up, but it's God doing it through you. And
Just relax and live happy.
yeah, you can let go and say, God, do it. I trust you.
Amen.
And that don't mean He won't cause you to go through do hard things sometimes, because sometimes God puts in your heart something you don't want to do, but you go for it, And but God's in control. God will bring you through those situations, So He says in 19, you are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and stored away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. And you knew that he would because God said he would. So, the Lord then said to Noah, go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with your 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal. So there's that word kind again. And remember what kind means. It was just that not every single dog, not German Shepherd, Boston Terrier, Pug, but dog. 1 kind within that DNA has the ability to make all those dogs. Within the Chihuahua is the wolf, which is so wild, but it is. So, pretty cool. So that's why he could fit all those on there. And people think, well, the ark's crazy, it can't happen. But, well, even our science proves that it can. And even when science doesn't prove something, we know that science is just knowledge. That's what the word science means, knowledge. And that's just man's knowledge. So we can be wrong. And
I had no idea how many people was inside him and boys,
yeah, no.
or he populated the whole world.
I mean, yeah, everyone come through him, and before that, Adam, it's just incredible. Verse 7:3, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep the various kinds of life of the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made. And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark as God had commanded Noah. Wow. Now remember, that's a commandment that God gave Noah, but God fulfilled that commandment for him. And after the 7 days, the floodwaters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, on that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened. So that's why I say that. Now he told Noah that he was going not only to just kill everything on earth besides him, but he was going to destroy the earth. So that's why I believe that the earth had a massive change after the flood. And it said the great deeps burst forth. The springs of the great deep. So it wasn't just rain, and I heard messages and stuff where it was just rain and everyone's coming up banging on the door. But I feel like it was a lot more explosive. It was like that. Just they were in there, locked, the door was shut, and then everything burst forth. Mm-hmm. And it come out, just imagine, Old Faithful I think it's in California or Yosemite or something. That water that just blasts out of the ground. But just times 100 million, just and yeah, right, and totally just reshaped everything. I think it even changed the climate because and I think that's this is just my opinion because these people lived for 900 years. My body, now God can sustain, but I think the world was made different at the beginning to help the body live longer. But after the flood, it was just total change in what happened because everything broke up along with the water. I believe other like lava and molten things just totally just turned the world and just changed the whole world. But it's interesting. And what was cool, one thing that's really cool that I learned talking about people who believe in like a really old earth, like most scientists will say the earth is trillions and trillions of years old, and they prove it by they'll go to the Grand Canyon and they'll look at the canyon, right, how it's cut out, and they'll say, okay, here's a chunk of rock, that's a type of rock, here's a chunk of rock, that's a type of rock, here's a chunk of rock, that's a type of rock. What it must have been was a small amount of water running over it, trillions of years, and it kindly just barrowed it out, right? And really, no one knew, unless you're a believer, you'd say, well, no, that's not true, because we have the Word. But we didn't really have a lot of evidence to just say, no, that's wrong. But then there was, what was that mountain that exploded? Mount St. Helen. Okay, Mount St. Helen was somewhere on Earth. I don't know exactly where. But out of nowhere, it was Washington State. Okay. It was volcanic, and it exploded. Whoops. And when it exploded, a massive amount of earth exploded with it, and then within a couple hours, carved out a canyon, a massive canyon, just like the Grand Canyon, because the earth just crushed that thing out and carved that land out within hours. Which
had the same layers.
And had all those layers.
If they hadn't known the volcano just blew up, they would have been like, oh, this must have taken millions of years.
They would have looked at that canyon and seen the layers and said, oh, that took millions of years. But because we have modern history, we say, no, that happened literally in an hour.
In the 80s.
In the 80s. That happened within hours of that exploding. So when you look at the canyon and these people say, well, it just happened, in years. But that's just, when you're a saved Christian and you know you're forgiven, you can talk about little stuff like that because it's just cool.
Like maybe millions of years from now, the Ohio River would look like a Grand Canyon. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing. Yeah.
No. I mean, if it goes that long, maybe. But yeah, what they believe is that a little bit of water.
Yeah.
But we believe a lot of water, tons of water in a matter of 40 days. Just,
When you think about fountains of the deep,
oh man. Yeah.
and then 40 days and nights of water, then you think about how much each gallon of water weighs.
Oh, it's over. It just crumples it up.
Oh yeah, it can erode things real quick.
Oh.
Take it out.
Oh yeah, look at the rain that comes through. It just washes out sides of
Oh,
mudslides and bridges.
Blacktop, it can do everything.
And look at that Mount St. Helens when it exploded. It caused that mass. But imagine the whole world turning like that. Boom. Huh?
That was lava that did that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it all came up together like that. So.
One thing about it, if you like to sleep when it was raining, you could really.
Oh no, they slept like.
Really sleep good. You get there, get your little hammock thing right there. You can just lay there and.
In the ark, will you be busy feeding the
Well, you gotta show you a little time off. You gotta sleep sometime. I mean,
But
They
They
probably
should have got that
forgot.
little clock. You might get it out. Maybe
They
somebody
probably
does.
forgot they was on a boat. It was so calm.
yeah, right.
And I took a cruise.
Yeah, it was
like
huge.
In the pool,
Yeah.
and it was so calm, on a cruise ship. You ever been? I was in the pool one night and looked in the water. I was the only one in there, and the water was moving some. And I was looking around. I forgot. I said, "Who got in here? What's making that water go?" And I thought, "Oh man, silly! I'm on a boat."
That's right.
You forget, it's so not, so calm.
Yeah, I know that's true. Unless you've been on it, you don't
I
really.
think the ark was like, I think it was
It
pretty
probably-
good.
It got rough a little bit, but it's the animals lit. It couldn't have been that bad because the animals made it.
They made it.
Praise the Lord. Verse 12. And it rained, fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On the very day, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with his wife and the wives of his 3 sons, entered the ark. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind, and all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moved along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, everything with wings. Pairs of all creatures that have the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God has commanded Noah. Then the Lord shut him in. So I love that because the Lord closed the door. Yeah. So it was awesome.
That door was probably so huge.
Yeah.
There probably wasn't much of a way that you could.
And the way he told him to build it, the only way it would be shut was by an outsider shutting it. So I wonder if Noah ever thought, oh man, I wonder if he got in there and thought, oh no, well, who's going to shut this? And then he just boom, and so it's definitely a faithful story, of a man who, like you said, spent 100 years around building it. So, and looked like a nut. I mean, you got to think he's not anywhere really near. I don't think very close to an ocean or a sea. And they weren't able to transport this thing. It'd be like building a cruise ship in Kentucky. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you know how hard it's going to get over there?
We had a foreman that worked with us, and I always liked working with him because he was strange. He was a strange guy.
But he's fun.
But he walked to his own beat.
Yeah.
And all the other foremen, he was so totally different. I mean. He liked canoeing and all this other stuff, and bike riding and hiking and stuff. But he kind of reminds me of somebody that would be like Noah.
Yeah.
Don't care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do this because this is what I want to do.
Right.
And that's what he always did.
Right.
And Because you never know what he was gonna do next. I mean, we'd be doing something on the wall, he'd have to totally change it than what you're supposed to do, you know, what you think. Huh? Okay, yeah, man, do that, you know. It's all, go over here and sit down and take a break for a while or something, you know, and it ain't time for a break, you know, it's just the way it was, you know.
You know, and God's called us to be like Him, loving, but we stand out. We stand out. If anyone ever sit with me and really want to understand what I believe, they think, wow, you're really different, you know.
I can see Noah doing something, and somebody say, hey, Nut, they go, how you doing?
Yeah.
Just keep on.
Had to.
Hey, now how you gonna get that door up? Well, yeah, I'll get somebody out there to raise it up.
That's it, okay,
Yeah.
y'all put it up for me, y'all gonna be out there.
And I have a question. What is rain?
Yeah.
Because it didn't rain.
No, it hadn't rained. That was the first time rain fell. You know, the water was still coming up from the ground to water the plant. So it was,
They didn't have seasons until after the flooding either.
yeah.
You know, when it started to rain the second time, they were probably like, oh no.
They were scared.
Yeah.
But He gave them that rainbow, you know.
I like the fact one deer said that it's time.
Yeah, right.
Said to me, it's time.
And how did God choose which deer? Was some deers wicked and the others were good, or you know?
How far away were all the animals?
Right.
You know, not every animal can last in a certain environment.
Yeah.
They had a year to walk there, though.
As you're walking.
Who knows? Yeah, they could have known longer.
Well, maybe a lot of the animals, like he talked about, like the dogs came from wolves and stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of the animals that was on there, they wasn't really like the ones that you see right now. I mean, they kind of evolved from what they
Yeah.
was back then, you know. I mean, I got 2 dogs in the pen, but like you said, they probably came from the wolves that they had on there or something. You know?
Adapted. Yeah, that's what's incredible about the animal.
Would be a better word than dog.
That's what it is, adaptation.
Adaptation.
Yeah, because within that dog, whatever it may be, a chihuahua or a wolf, they can all come out of it, right?
You see that's like people.
Yeah, like we're a kind, mankind. Within mankind, there's black, white.
Canines, felines, you know.
Yeah, the feline kind, which you got the lion to the house cat. You got the monkey, which you got the silverback to the spiders.
God controls the DNA.
Huh?
God controls the DNA.
Yep. God is so good. I love you all. I love this too. Does anyone want to share anything, or before we close, or anything on your hearts or your prayers?
Well, my brother, he took his first